Marion, lovely to meet you again. Now, I'd love you to talk me through this new Marion Boyce range that the National Trust is selling online and can be shipped internationally.
It's every cloud, I think, is selling it online. So it all came about because people wanted merchandise for when we did the Miss Fisher costume shows in Australia, which is still going and just opened in Sydney. So it's online and being sold from the Miss Fisher website.
Yes. So tell me about these. I have to say, I am just would so love to do this.
Oh, these are, as everybody knows, Ferrari wore a lot of feathers.
Yes.
Feathers, it was such a character thing. Feathers have this really beautiful, quite whimsical, they're quite happy sort of fluff. It makes you feel $1 million. So I've spent months and months and months designing the shape of these and getting them patterned so then they sit away from the body and they sit sort of up, and it just they're quite majestic that way then. And got these really beautiful period colours, all colours that are very beautiful. Miss Fisher herself wore.
Yes.
This is we call this a Tinkerbell and a smoky violet.
Smoky violet.
This
brooch, beautiful brooches too.
This brooch, it was the first brooch I ever bought for Friday. I was in Hong Kong and I was looking for jewellery. It's before the first season, so leading up to the first season I was in Hong Kong for a job. And I saw it, and it's quite sort of royal, but it's very cheeky.
Yeah.
And so this is something that Friday wore. I still adore this brooch. It still makes me giggle.
It is gorgeous. And so we have a whole range of different.
So then this
colours.
is the sort of the smoky violet one.
Yes. Black.
And then the black, has a die. There's one with a diamante buckle.
Cool.
One's without a diamante buckle.
So we have a range of wraps and scarves.
Yes, these are shawls. This one, I adore this. This has got the tinkle of the 20s. I've always been fascinated by what it would sound like in the ballrooms.
Okay.
With all of the beautiful glass beads, you know, there's all the silks that rustle and the beads that tinkle, and it's the sound of the 20s. And there's something quite magnificent about it, and this shawl does exactly that.
It does. So is that the sequins that are making the noise?
Yes.
Wow.
So it's got a beautiful rustle.
It does.
So yeah, look, it's on a really lovely net. So it doesn't become really heavy. It doesn't become heavy, and so it's very malleable. But it's got the weight, so it actually balances. And yes, so you can use it as a scarf or a shawl or
whatever you like.
Many uses.
What other treasures?
Oh, this is one of my favourites. This has got the most beautiful trim. I've searched for months and months and months to find this trim. And it's got once again a beautiful weight. So
what sort of places do you search for to find trims? Where do you go? Have you got secret sources you're not prepared to tell?
I have got some secret sources. It's actually quite hard finding all of these bits now, especially of late. I've had to source them in Australia.
Yes.
But this is really, really quite beautiful, and it's got the gorgeous weight. So it's all hand sewn, and it's just got. It's really beautiful size, so it's got this really beautiful sort of swing to it.
Swish around in it.
So I wanted everything to have the elegance and the swing.
Yes.
Because that is very much part of the 20s. So it's actually...
It's the movement and the sound of the 20s.
Yes.
Not just the look.
Not just the look.
That's
so
interesting. Did you find that the fabrics, when you're looking for fabrics, because fabric technology has moved on since the 20s, I assume that they were using all natural fibres. Are you still using most of those natural fibres, or have you got more modern versions?
We've got limited. We're a lot more limited than they were in the 20s. They had a lot more. They had a lot more silks. They had a lot more sort of beautiful silk rounds and lyrics, early sort of lyrexes and stuff. So our the fabrics we have to choose from have actually shrunk, and the colour range has sort of shrunk. Which is really
Is that
really
just because
sad.
of fashion, that they're only dyeing certain things, or?
I think a lot. There's also, the world has become very chain store.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of wash and wear. People don't know how to deal with fabrics, and indeed they don't sew a lot.
Yes.
So a lot of there's not the demand for it. And in the sort of, you know, up until I would say the sort of the 80s,
yes,
a lot of people sew, but it's sort of fallen away.
It has.
So I think it's a lot to do with that. But if you still go to countries that sew a lot, like
Yes.
Italy, and that's why
You'll
I
find more.
Mm.
Now tell me about these gorgeous pieces of jewellery.
Jewellery. I just adore brooches, and I love wearing them at sort of inappropriate times and getting fabulous bits of bling, and actually just wearing like a black t-shirt and putting them on a black t-shirt and just wearing them in the daytime. At night time I mostly take everything off, but I wear the bling in the daytime. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of, you know, it's quite cheeky, but it's whimsical. And so all of these beautiful sort of feathers and starbursts.
So all the designs, are they pure 1920s, or are they a modern take on 1920s, or a mixture?
Most of them are derived from the styles of the 20s.
Yes.
So all of the naturalistic things like the feathers and the bees and
The
maple leaf,
yes.
and these maple leaves. All of the sunbursts. Oh, these is really beautiful,
Yes.
with pearl and marcasite. But all of these are very 20s in style, but they're not the heavy-handed sort of Art Deco design that you see a lot of. These I've sourced from all around the world, and indeed these ones I get made up in Bangkok, and they're just really high quality silver work.
Okay.
Mm.
And so are they all, what are they actually made of? Are they...
Well, lots of them are. They've got semi-precious stones. They've got marcasites. They've got agate. There's silver. They're quite a beautiful weight.
Yes.
They're a really lovely. These earrings, for instance, these are fantastic. These reflect all of the colours that you're wearing. So if you've got a blue, they'll take on a blue. They'll take on a green. So these are actually quite fantastic. I love the duality of these.
So yes, take on anything you're wearing.
That's right.
I love these. And with these sorts of, is that, what sort of, is that a...
This one's costume jewellery. So that's
crystal, just
diamante.
diamante sort of crystal.
Mm.
And was that typical of the era? Were they actually wearing diamonds? Would this have been diamonds in Franny's age, or would it actually have been costume?
All of the above. All of the above. There was a lot of things like pressed metal and tin and stuff.
Yes.
Because you had enormous amount of deprivation during the war, and you had a lot of materials that you no longer had. There was an awful lot of fake jewellery. Costume jewellery was very much part of the time.
So it was the era when the costume jewellery really came into its own?
Well, after the war, yes. Even the wedding rings were made often out of tin.
Okay.
People couldn't afford them. So yes, costume jewellery was, or it was passed down through generations. So it was, still the wealthy had.
Yes, the real diamonds.
They had the real diamonds.
The rest of us can enjoy our costume jewellery.
Correct. And there's nothing, there's a lot of fun to be had with costume jewellery.
I think so. I'm a big lover of costume jewellery because you can have a different mood every day and you can play.
Yes.
That you just can't afford to do with real jewellery, as much as I'd love to have it all in real diamonds.
Well, also it takes on a whole different meaning when it's real, because
Yes.
it becomes a precious and one should wear it to an event.
Yes.
When costume jewellery, you can have fun and wear it any way you want.
Every
But
day.
these are like very much like Franny.
Yes.
These are beautiful faceted agate, and they're really lovely. They're very. When I saw these, I just. I have a great soft spot for...
So tell me, what are the steps that you go through with your design process to arrive at a costume?
Well, you're given a script and you work out the character. That's the character completely drives the way you design. You work out colours, you work out the mood for a piece, and it all sort of comes together.
So do you actually use vintage pieces, vintage costumes in the show, or are they all kind of modern made pieces?
A lot of modern made, because we're a lot bigger physically than we were.
We are.
They're fragile, the 1920s ones, and they're also a little bit tarnished, and Franny was this fabulous,
A glamorous
sassy,
woman.
glamorous.
Everything was new and beautiful.
It was, and to make it fly, we had to do that. But I use it, in saying that, I use an enormous amount of original buttons, lasers, trims.
Okay.
And so use as 20s techniques, cutting techniques, but incorporate a lot of
the modern. So when you're making a costume from scratch, how much of the past fashion is interpreted and how much is copied?
Well, you know, the most important thing for any period is to understand, you've got to understand the cutting process and all of the rules and the tenets and the balance. And once you've got that, you can then design. You don't need to copy. You can let your imagination.
So you're a 1920s designer when you were doing the Miss Fisher.
Yes, I'll tell you a bit of a strange thing. When you finish something, a period piece, I always finish it, and I'm some weird sort of, I lose my own style completely.
Okay.
And I end up some strange, if it's 1920, some sort of part, 1920s thing, and at the end I have to, I look in the mirror and I think, wow.
So do you start dressing 1920s?
I think you take on bits of it, because that's what you read and you look at and everything. You get really, you completely immerse yourself in the 20s.
Have you been tempted to make yourself a true Friday dress or outfit?
No. I'm the wrong shape.
Yes, it's a very flat, slim shape, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Have you got one outfit that's a personal favourite from any of the seasons?
That's like having a favourite child.
They're all favourites.
For lots of different reasons.
Yes. Do you see many of the design elements from the 20s working in today's fashion and today's clothing?
It's different parts of the 20s have come back at many different times. The 70s was a really large echo of the 20s, and they just reinterpret the sort of the balance of something. But yes, there's some great. I love ensemble dressing, and I think something that really is coming back at the moment is the use of feathers and also coats. Long coats are back in fashion, and it's thrilling to see.
So would the costumes that you've designed for the Miss Fisher Mysteries, were they like completely something somebody would walk down the street in Melbourne back in the 20s, or are they a much more glamorous version of what you would have seen?
Phryne's character, she came, she was a little bit of a bohemian. Australia at the time was very much followed sort of English fashion, which was a lot more staid. But she'd been in Paris, which was just alive and quite progressive. So when Phryne hit our shores, she was quite a surprise.
So you wouldn't have seen too many women in those clothes here?
No.
Sadly.
Sadly.
So with the Marion Boyce line of items in the Miss Fisher store, can you tell us, this is the latest load of accessories that you're adding? Are you adding any other pieces?
It will constantly change. I'm not very good at mass production, and so everything is a limited edition.
Yes.
And I'm quite anti mass production actually.
Yeah.
So different times when I travel, like I'm going to spend quite a bit of time in Italy in May, so I'll come back with a whole lot of other things. So there'll be some new stuff that come from Shanghai fabric markets, which or the chinois, which I truly adore.
Beautiful.
So always there'll be added pieces, and it'll change.
And do you think now, one of the questions my blog readers asked was, what era do you think had the most flattering clothes for women?
1930s.
1930s. You think that was the ultimate era?
Beginning of the 1930s. Yes.
Okay.
The cutting was magnificent, and it just swept round your body. It was great.
So hopefully we'll have a 1930s revival in fashion.
Oh, great. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Marion. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, lovely to meet you.
Thank you.